Welcome back, everyone, to our second episode of Branching Out, brought to you by CNLA, Alec and Brea. We're so happy that you're here with us for another episode. We're pretty excited. This is our first episode where we're actually bringing a guest, so it's not just us talking to you, which maybe you're super happy about. But yeah, Brie, if you want to talk about, I guess, who we're bringing on, a little bit about our background, and then we'll obviously bring her aboard for the interview portion.
You bet. So we're really excited to have Elizabeth Kawahara on our Branching Out podcast. As a farm kid in central Alberta, Elizabeth developed a love for the land and being outside early in life, as well as a strong work ethic. Her first job off the farm was working in a greenhouse. She loved the dirt under her fingernails and the rich, humid, almost tropical smell of the artificial growing environment. When she started landscaping, she fell in love with the residential design build work, especially the variety of tasks from day to day. After completing her apprenticeship and earning her Red Seal endorsement in landscape horticulture, she started her own company, Fairhaven Landscaping, in 2013. Fairhaven Landscaping is a design-build landscaping company servicing the central Alberta region. In fall 2014, Elizabeth became an instructor for the Landscape Horticulturist Journeyman program at Olds College. After teaching for over 10 years at the college, Elizabeth has earned the reputation of being an incredibly knowledgeable, tough but fair instructor who goes above and beyond to create quality course content and lessons that blends both theoretical practices with real-life examples.
And also, too, Bree has a little bit of personal experience with Elizabeth. She was actually one of her students during this process, so she can speak firsthand to a lot of these experiences. So we really hope that you enjoy time with Elizabeth. Thanks, Elizabeth, for joining us.
You're very welcome.
So we have a few questions prepared that we're going to ask Elizabeth kind of on how she got into the industry, how her current role and work life looks, and then what kind of advice and stories she'd like to tell to the next generation, so to speak. So without further ado, here we go. So Elizabeth, if you could tell us how you got kind of introduced to the green industry, like if it was, I'm going to use so many buzzwords, if it was organic, or not, or if you want to kind of speak to how you fell into this industry.
Yeah. So in my bio, I said that I grew up on a farm. So, I mean, that kind of automatically gets you a little bit out there into nature. There was a lot of like playing outside as a kid and stuff. I always enjoyed being out there. And so my first paid job off the farm was actually working at a greenhouse that my aunt worked at. So, I kind of got the taste, I guess, there. I loved the heat and the atmosphere. If you've ever walked into a greenhouse, you know what I'm talking about, like the smell that it just feels alive. That was always great. And then it was funny because I was actually planning on a career in like outdoor leadership and stuff and like youth work, but I needed a short-term job for the summer, and no one would hire me because I was really honest about the fact that I only wanted like 4 months of employment. And so this guy
That's
was
fair.
like, "Oh, well, you're a farm kid and you have greenhouse experience, so I'll hire you as a landscaper, but you have to do the trade. If you don't commit to the trade, then I'm not going to hire you." And I was like, "It's a trade?" And so I looked into it and I was like, "Well, this door is open, so I guess I'm gonna walk through it," and I really have never looked back.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, the slap in the face experience of walking into a greenhouse the first time. Like, yeah, I totally know what you mean. And especially like a more of a production greenhouse too, not just like a garden center one where it's, prepared and you kind of walk into the sales, so to speak, but into a real life. Yeah, you walk in and it's just instant humidity and smell. And I mean, speaking for myself, I just feel super relaxed, but we're
Yeah.
weird, apparently. So,
I could also see you as kind of like that outdoorsy guide. Like I had the experience of Elizabeth as my instructor, and then I get to work with her also with our companies. And I think you'd have been a very fun guide unless you were being a twit that wasn't listening to instructions. Like if you were being the donkey that's like hanging off the rail or not following, I'd be like, it would be interesting to be a bystander and see you being very honest with them. But I think you would have been great in either or. But I love the fact that you're in our industry and you are a huge champion for so many different facets, but definitely that education piece.
You don't have to answer, but you can tell me after if Brianna was the twit that she might be referring to. But
No, I was the twit who was way too confident when we were doing our last project. And
I'm third generation. I know everything.
no, we were just done. And we were gabbing, and Elizabeth was like, you have a presentation. And we were like, yeah, it's fine. Like, we have an interpretive dance, like just being ridiculous. And she was like, I can't wait to see it. She invites like the dean of the trades to our presentation. I'm in a sunflower costume doing an interpretive dance. Like, that is how I left Olds College. So
That tracks. That
yeah,
definitely tracks.
if you're going to be that person that says, I'm going to do this, she's going to hold it to you.
You didn't record that by any chance, did you, Elizabeth?
Oh, I wish I had.
Because we could have maybe shown a little clip into this episode, but that's fine.
It was amazing, to be honest. Yeah. Every year I've asked the students to do an interpretive dance, and Brianna's the only one who's ever stepped up and like given it a go. So
Yeah, that really makes sense to me, actually.
Alex, like, that tracks. Yeah, so
Yep.
here's your, if you're in the trades in Elizabeth's class, hopefully you're listening, and this challenge is out there.
gauntlet's been thrown.
Yeah. Try to beat a interpretive sunflower dance.
Yeah, with costume.
With costume, yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess speaking to the fact that you were kind of professionally more so led down the landscaping route, do you like was that something that you instantly fell in love with, especially coming from more of like that farming and greenhouse background, or did it kind of take you a little bit to find your passion in that sector?
So the company that I apprenticed with was a residential design build, and it was such a good fit for me. I loved the whole work right from the very beginning. If any of you have ever done construction, you know it's like punishing work, but I've always loved that, like hard work, dirty hands, clean money, thing like that everyone's doing. But like
Sponsor us,
I
please.
it's totally been like a big part of who I am. I love like, kind of being a little bit sore and just being so proud. I remember one of the first employees I had. At the end of the day, he would like take selfies with like the work he had done, and I was like, rightly so. Like we should be proud of what we build. It is nice friggin' stuff. And I've just always really loved that kind of like sculpting with nature basically, and so that whole part of it always appealed to me. And of course I've always enjoyed growing and working with plants, and so getting to kind of do that endpoint installation was huge for me. So yeah, no, it really didn't take long at all for me to feel like this is something that I wanted to do.
No, 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 that's awesome. How would you say that you've evolved throughout your career, like either like personally or professionally? Like, if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so I've always been a really driven person who's always kind of pushing for the next thing. And it I really acknowledge now how unusual it was to have an employer who pushed us into the apprenticeship right off the board. He was in his 60s when I came to work for him, and so he kind of, and maybe it was because he came from Ontario originally, but he just really believed in the apprenticeship, and he really believed that us going to trade school was an opportunity for him to keep his own professional development up. And that's not a common attitude in industry that I see. And so right from like the first day I was signed up as an apprentice, and it was understood that I was doing this for 4 years. In the fifth year, I sat down with him and said, look, like I feel like I can do the work, but I don't really understand how to be a manager. And it's so funny because there's so many things that I just complained bitterly about when I was an employee, but like now that I'm a business owner, like I have a totally different perspective of him and like how he handled my request. But that was probably the single most challenging year that I had ever had where, he was trying to push me into a leadership position, but I don't know that I totally had the maturity for it. But then I got to a point where I was in my late 20s and I felt like I didn't really have enough money to like be on my own, and I wanted to transition into independence. And so I was like, look, like he's not going to pay me anymore. So I either need to go back to school or start my own business. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I started my own business, like a year after gaining the apprenticeship, and then the opportunity to instruct here at the college came up really suddenly, and a former instructor contacted me and was like, "You should apply." And I was, "They're never gonna hire me," and she's like, "You should apply anyway," and they hired me, and here I am.
Over a decade later. Like
Over a decade later,
it's hard to like
still standing.
it's hard to picture that you like meeting you in this version of Elizabeth, like being like, what? Like you were like you have powerhouse vibes, and like from day one, period 4, when I like met you actually in person because we emailed. Alec, I had never met this person face to face, but I had communicated with her. I sent her different documents and stuff. Met her first time day 1 on school, and was like, hey, this is kind of weird, but like you have so much confidence and just I would say like ooze kind of like that leadership quality for sure in front of a classroom. And so it's like wild to me. I'm like, what does younger Elizabeth, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's interesting because I look at my siblings too, and like my family has like a reputation for like I'm a chip off the old block, like you know, hard work, bold answers, speaking the truth as we see it, and I look and my brothers are both also tradespeople, also both self-employed, and like we are all very similar. So I think there was something about like just growing up on the farm and, like we valued hard work and earning our wages and treating people fairly, like my dad is a farmer, the landmen know him. And there's kind of a running joke because he has 5-wire barbed wire fences. Most farmers have 4, but dad's are 5. And he told all of the oil people like $1,000 a wire, if you cut my fence and drive through it, which is I guess what was the normal, and so there's just kind of this joke that, like it he's a hard negotiator, but it's fair and it's reasonable, and he's just asking to be treated with respect, and I feel like that sort of defines all of us as kids. We grew up with this example and of both of my parents, just working really hard for the things that they have and us valuing it.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, even from someone who hasn't really, had the pleasure of meeting you or anything like that, I can just see it even from here and you speaking about your experiences and stuff like that, and I can very confidently say that the world needs more people like that. So yeah, that's awesome, and I can see why you've been so successful. Like you just decided one day, hey, I need more money. I don't think it's right to ask someone else for more money, so I'm gonna go get more money, and you did it.
Let's just be real though. Like we're painting this as like this really amazing thing, but like there's
Oh
blood,
well,
sweat, and a lot of tears.
you're at the viewpoint of the hike, like looking back for sure.
And there's like still days where there's probably tears that come and frustration and challenges. Like it's not like you get to a certain point in your career where you're like, oh, this is easy, I get to coast now. Like but it is impressive what you built and what you built at a young age. And as someone that's gone through and had the opportunity to have you as an instructor, I'm a better journeyman for it. And you have a reputation of being a tough but fair instructor, which I think is part of like who you are as a person. Like you just want to be treated right. You want people to put the same effort in. And like I've never met a teacher that communicates so clearly what your expectations are on a project. And I have a Bachelor of Education, and I'm like, I appreciated that when I was in your classroom, like you said right off the get-go, like if you get, I think it was 90, 95 or higher, like I think you could do this in the real world. Like you didn't fluff it up. And then once you hit real world life and be like, oh my gosh, it's nothing like it. It's like all rainbows and butterflies in school. And then real life is really like totally different. Like you held really high standards so that we could hit those marks and learned at school so we were better prepared in real life, which I think is also just like an incredible piece to have in our trade.
And what's funny though is that I really think that the reason for that is there is no more exacting of a standard than someone who is paying you their very hard-earned money for something that deep down inside they believe they could do themselves. You know,
It's a
if
good way
you're
of putting it.
doing residential landscaping, you're showing up at people's houses and you're planting a tree. You know, my employer once told me, "Don't get arrogant, Elizabeth, because there is nothing we do as landscapers that nobody else can do. Anybody could do this. They just don't because it's hard." And to some points, like I mean, obviously there's science and there's knowledge and there's, all of this other stuff, not to downplay our trade, but at the same time, like deep down inside, I know whenever I meet anyone, for the most part, they are choosing to hire me because they believe in my skill, they believe in my professionalism, they believe in my experience, but they have other choices, and so I always feel the heat, I guess, of their evaluation um, every day, and them paying the bill in a timely manner is them giving me my grade, you know? And so
That's fair. Yeah.
I I really do run my classroom in a similar manner because I know that a lot of my students are going to become municipal employees, or maybe they'll remain employees where they get paid regardless, because they're not entrepreneurs. But I really want to prepare people for the reality that your 100% is the same as you getting paid for a job done excellently. Time served doesn't equal skill. So, um, you have to want it, you have to earn it, you have to work for it.
Did you always have that mentality, or do you think that that kind of evolved in your pedagogy as you've taught for over a decade now?
Oh, I've probably become more generous over the years, believe it or not.
Time has softened you.
Um, I
This
go
is where we pan to like a student that you had at the beginning of your career and then one that you had last semester.
She was so terrifying.
I actually talk about this a fair amount with my husband because we talk about just the where employees are at, because one of the things about being in a trade is that, especially a trade like ours where a lot of it's seasonal and short-term employees, we're often hiring people that are entry level in their, definitely in our industry, but also a lot of times in their careers. And so people are always talking about common sense and, people not having critical thinking skills or whatever. And I always say, I'm like, but every year I get more experience, more knowledge, and more skill. But the people that we're hiring, when we're hiring new people all the time, they're all starting from the same point. And if you looked at an employee that we had 6 or 7 years ago, you would see 6 or 7 years worth of growth and improvement and change. But because we're always hiring these new people at the beginning, the gap between our skill and knowledge and experience gets greater as we age and build more skill. And so I look at myself as an instructor, and in the beginning, I don't think that I recognized at all the experience that I had as an industry worker versus students who were doing something for the first time. Like I joke because I thought it would be so useful for them to do landscape designs on real life properties. So I got an acreage and I made these students who have never done any design work before design a 5-acre property.
Okay, that
And
is kind
like
of harsh.
there were tears. Honestly, a lot of the students rose to the challenge and did a phenomenal job. But I've now like downscaled the project to like a very simple rectangular small city lot.
Which still takes
That
an absorbent amount of time as someone who did that project and sitting at the old college computers doing the design on a Sunday. And you're like, I can only imagine the 5 acre acreage. And there would be more than tears. Holy smokes.
And
it,
plot twist, I'm going to live on it after you design it, so
yeah,
make sure it's good.
but it was like I think it just boiled down to like I didn't realize like what to me at the time didn't really seem like that big of a deal, you know, like you often don't recognize where you are at on your own journey. And so you don't realize like for you it's just been such a slog. If we go back to the mountain, you're sometimes you don't stop and look back and see how far you've come. You just see yourself on the journey and you assume that everybody else that you interact with is at the same place, and they're not. And so I think that's kind of one of the big things that I've had to learn both as an employer and as an instructor is, I need to forget about where I'm at and look at where other people are at when they're coming into the journey with me, you know.
That's incredibly insightful. And I actually while you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, holy smokes, that would explain actually a lot of my frustration at the beginning of the season when you're like, oh my gosh. But you're right. That gap keeps getting bigger. And where your entry level folks are coming in, kind of staying consistent as you keep growing.
Yeah, that empathy is hard to come by, and like you said, just yeah, it's a really good way to put it. Like, yeah, as you go through your own journey, just that level that you start to operate at, you forget what it's like. And I know I do a lot of the time. Like, oh, you probably don't know how to shovel the right way or the way that I want you to shovel. You just kind of move things around, you know.
Yeah, I joke that like dumping wheelbarrows is a skill,
It
but
is
but it is. Like
like
I have
I
you
wasn't
have to
joking
teach
about.
people. Yeah.
My first day landscaping, no one taught me how to use a wheelbarrow. And I was standing, you're going to judge the intellect of younger Brie, but I was standing down the hill from the wheelbarrow and it was pea gravel. My entire family was off. It was a Saturday. It was my first landscaping Saturday. I was like, this already sucks. And the wheelbarrow scraped my entire front because I tried to catch it. And I was just like, little scrawny Brie. Not a lot has changed, but like terrible, like down the shorts, down my shins. And I went home and I was like, I hate this industry. I hate landscaping. And it was like day 3 of my summer holidays of like being a landscaper. And already being an owner's kid, you get half the respect, even if you work twice as hard. Like that scale is so messed up. And so you couldn't cry, but I was ready to cry and never come back because no one taught me how to use a darn wheelbarrow. And yes, it is very much a skill. So with that thought of like, there's these small skills that that people need. What types of students is there a trend of students that are coming into these programs? Because you were saying, there's not really kind of the mentors that you had, right? That kind of like sign you up day one into the apprenticeship program. So what does the average student look like that's coming into the trade program? And maybe my second question being, how has that evolved over your time being an instructor?
So the students, because we always get asked that because we have the horticulture diploma and degree track that you can go through the college, and then we have the apprenticeship track. And there's always this kind of question from marketing and whatever else, like why would someone choose the apprenticeship or the horticulture track, and what kind of students do you get, and how is it different? And um, I do think that the apprenticeship often draws more mature students. A lot of times we get students who have they've already done some other post-secondary, they've already done another career, and then they've career changed into landscaping because we love nature, we love the outside. There's that kind of added benefit, and when one of them had a political science degree, and it was kind of like I can't change all the problems of the world, but I can plant trees. Like I think that sometimes we get that, and a lot of people who they have homes and they have families, so they're looking for a way to get a post-secondary certification that will be lower cost because the government offsets 2/3 of your tuition and you can collect EI while you're here. Like, it's the best kept secret ever. You get an advanced diploma because of the parity of esteem thing that the government is doing now. So you still get a diploma, like a piece of paper, as well as your red seal that you can take nationally and even internationally, but you pay a third and you also get paid while you're there. So there's that whole demographic of people that come through our program. But we do have some high schoolers that will come through straight out of school. You know, they've participated in the RAP, like the Registered Apprenticeship Program, or maybe they did it as a summer job and they have an employer that was like, you should do this. And so every now and again, we get them coming through. But I wish that that happened more often, because it is, like I say, it's pretty rare to have employers who are looking for talent and recruiting with permanence, you know, and saying, I want to send you through the apprenticeship because it it's beneficial and it's an actual real career. You know, so often people are waiting until they've been in the industry, you know, 5, 6, 10, 15 years even sometimes before they start the apprenticeship, which actually is not the way that apprenticeships were designed to be.
Yeah, I am case in point on that one. And do you think that people are slow maybe to find the industry because there's some misunderstandings over our industry? Do you think that's part of the case at all?
I think that with the young people, a big part of it is just that there's a lack of awareness that there is such a thing as industry certification when it comes to landscaping. You know, a lot of people don't realize that it's a trade. They don't realize that there's such a thing as like certified, trained, qualified landscapers. And so it just doesn't even come to mind. Like, I frequently will go to open houses and recruitment things and like young women in trades I've participated in and stuff. And like, landscaping just isn't even on people's radar. As you know, you think plumbing, you think mechanics, you think welding, you think carpentry. People don't think about landscaping as a trade. So I think that a lot of times the counselors aren't directing students towards that. Even when I've had one of my good friends, her daughter came and worked for me when she was in high school, and I was like, "Hey, well, you should do the apprenticeship. You need to register as a RAP. Like, go to your high school counselor and get that organized while you're in high school, because then you can earn credit and potentially get some money from the government." And she did. And the high school counselor actually registered her as part of like the horticulture, like pre-employment track, like not the apprenticeship. So I had to send her back and get her to do it again and be like, no, you actually need to do this document so that you are a registered apprentice. So like, even when she knew exactly what she wanted, the high school counselor didn't know what she was even really talking about.
Well, and that's the tough part is like you don't know what you don't know in all aspects of life. And so if as a high school student, if you only know probably what you're exposed to in terms of your everyday interactions, right? And the people in your life and like what they do for a living. And unless you start going down rabbit holes, right? And then like you're relying on a lot of adults in your life to expose you to different things. So that can be both like a blessing and a barrier, depending on what their experiences has been. Do you think landscaping, the seasonality, like I know you and I've had conversations, like because when you're entering in to this trade, trying to find year-round work is tricky versus if you were in plumbing or electrical, you have that year-round work. Do you think that that's sometimes one of the things that holds people back from jumping in earlier?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the things that stops kids' parents from encouraging them to go down this track. I think that there's opportunities though, like when you go to like snow and ice symposiums and stuff like that, there's companies now that make the bulk of their money doing snow and ice removal, and the landscaping's kind of like their side gig in the summer. Um, there is, I think, a slow moving trend towards some interiors and living walls and stuff like that, which helps. But um, I do also think that I mean, like the guy that I apprenticed for, he made all his money in the summer and took his winters off and like traveled to other countries, like, and so if you earn enough money in the shorter period of time, you can support yourself for the whole year and you don't necessarily have to work in the winter. But one of the other things too that I encourage people to do is, I really wish that high school counselors would send artistic kids to our trade, because I think about, I've had a number of apprentices now that are really interested in sculpting or like graphic design or some of the art stuff that I think is probably really challenging to do professionally. And so if you could have a trade that pays you enough for the summer, and then you could pursue your art through the winter, like there's ways I think to augment your definition of our trade and make money through the winter as well.
It's actually a brilliant idea. We just need to get Elizabeth on a road show and just go from like high school to high school and be like, here's Elizabeth, and then just like recruit young, like, because I honestly think that landscaping is like, first of all, people just think it's mowing grass, and two, it's just like the classic summer job thing, right? When you're going through college or university, like that's what people think landscaping is. Like we've got siloed somehow into that instead of it being like it's a career. It's full of professionals, and like you wear many hats, Elizabeth. Like you landscape design, you own your own company, you're an instructor. Like there's so many different parts of the industry that you wear just in your everyday life. So I think to have someone like yourself that could expose people and not just be like, oh, you're just this, would be incredibly helpful. What excites you about this industry all these years in?
I was thinking about that, and I honestly think that I mean, I still love um, meeting people, talking to them about like what they'd like to see, and then like conceptualizing an idea and seeing it built out. Like that has never gotten old for me. Especially when the customers keep me around for maintenance and I get to like see the designs grow and establish and become these, living organic spaces. Like I still really love that part of it. But I think that another part of it is that our society and culture, like we're so overwhelmed with the messaging that we're getting about our planet and about our world and about, society and people. And it's it's exhausting and it's scary. Like food security and financial security and, where are we going to go in life? And I love that we actually have um, a pathway for doing something about the problems. And like Brianna sat in on my one class on sustainability, but we spend like half an hour just like writing up all the problems in the world. Like I'm like everything you've heard on social media, anything bad, just let's put it on the board.
It's a depressing exercise a little bit.
Yeah, but then before I let everybody go, then I actually go through and I'm like, okay, this is year 4. So let's start talking about the technologies that you've learned about that address these problems. And like, there pretty much is no problem on the board that there is not a solution to when it comes to landscaping, and like, are we gonna like change all of the world in one day? Absolutely not. But you get enough people at the ground level who care and who invest and who are working towards something. And there is potential to make a change, even just a couple days ago, I emailed all of my third years because I got this publication a few years ago about the gypsy cuckoo bumblebee and how it's like endangered and blah, 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 blah. And on Elk Island, they recorded for the first time in however many years that they found the gypsy cuckoo bumblebee, you know? And I was like, look, guys, naturalization worked. Like, it just,
That's awesome.
like, it's fun to report the wins, you know, and to be able to say like we have the potential to make real actual change and to impact people's lives for the better. And you don't have to win every battle, you know, but we have all of these like little opportunities, and I think that that is worth all of the blood, sweat, and tears.
There's no shortage of passionate people, and to find that outlet, and like you said, like all these issues that we can address in ways that you don't think about. Like, who would think that a landscaper is gonna save the bumblebee, right? Like, it's not really a thing. Or like you said, like food scarcity or financial. It's, yeah, it's a real, yeah, non-traditional route that, I, again, it's just not that obvious to people. So that's awesome. I'm actually really curious on how you find splitting your current workload, and especially like it's such a big topic in today. And I think that, like, I don't know, maybe the verbiage is getting more prevalent, part of the conversation and stuff like that. But if you want to speak to how you manage that workload, like, and if you've experienced any type of burnout, or how you've kind of dealt with managing the real world stress, like you said, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, and you're not looking at your journey with, that was really good, you know, that was awesome, I had no trouble with that. And obviously that's not the case, but yeah, if you just want to speak to, I guess, how you manage that.
Yeah, I do think that I have a lot of grit and staying power that's been built into me, you know, over the years. I think I've always been a bit of an endurance animal, so like that helps. But I do think that I work a lot. Like, honestly, you know, I don't have children. I do a lot of like, you know, 50, 60 hour weeks, you know, and but it's funny because you know what they always say, like if you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life. You know, like I I work because I love it. You know, I love what I do. You know, I was actually honestly talking to one of my coworkers last night. Like I just, you know, I just got this new course and I actually think it would be really fun to spend my evening like making new PowerPoints for it. I do like it. And I think that that's a really, really important thing for people, especially young people, to think about. Like, what do you love to do? And how can you turn what you love into a way to earn money? Because I think that's a really important part of mental health, and turning that thing that you love into something that you're doing all day long. But the other thing too is I do set very real boundaries. I don't check my email in the evenings. Usually, I'll check my email for my students once on the weekend. I don't go to customers' houses on weekends. I have an app on my phone that controls when calls come through and texts, and so I control when my customers can talk to me. And it's not like it's crazy, but I keep it within business hours, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And it's not like my brain turns off, but it does allow me to keep some space. And I do check-ins frequently, you know, like so there was one time a few years ago where I was like, you know, I'm not actually a landscaper anymore. I'm a business person. And I was like, I don't really think I like that. And so I started looking at ways to hire out some of the work that I don't want to do so that I can do the work that I love and stay on that track. And I also, I don't know, have you ever noticed that you ask people like how they're doing or what's up, and the first thing they do is talk about how busy they are and all of their work? And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So I was like, I need a hobby, and I need a hobby that I can do whenever I want to. And so I took up horseback archery. So like shooting bows and arrows off of running horses. And it's
When did you
Super
start
casual.
this?
a couple years ago.
I was gonna say you could just do that whenever. Hey, where's my horse?
That
Did
is
you know
wild.
you can lease a horse, hey, you don't have to buy them. Like
I knew
it's-
that, but I'm just like, I am gobsmacked right now that I sat in how many hours in your classroom. I've communicated you how long, and none of that. I obviously did not ask the right question. I probably was the idiot that said, "How are you doing?"
How's work?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I
your
really
season
like
going?
horseback archery.
Yeah. It's just so easy to talk about work with you, Brianna. But yeah, no, I was
So
like, I
recurve
just
or compound? Now I'm like,
no,
'cause
it's Mongolian, like
Okay.
the bow, or there's Japanese as well. Like there's different bows that you can use. But yeah, like they're short bows because you don't want to obviously hit your horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, because
So
I competed in archery as a youngster, so I'm like, how have we not talked about archery?
yeah, come on out on Saturday. There's a revelry. You can.
I was an acreage child. I didn't really have the horse experience, so like that would be my Achilles heel.
Start on the ground. Don't be crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Training wheels. Got it. Yeah.
Okay, we digress. Landscaping.
That's
Um,
important digression there. Oh my.
No, but it is an important piece in the sense of like making sure that you have a diverse life and different things that you get to pour your passion and your interest into and your time into to keep you balanced. I think is
Well, I think that is a really important part of it, and I actually often think that I'm probably not I'm not actually I don't consider myself very successful as a business person, to be honest. Like I'm 14 years in and I haven't sunk, so I guess that makes me a success. But I'm not you go to these like business conferences and you see these like young bucks talking about how, they've sold $3 million businesses when they're like before the age of 30. And like you see these people who are like, oh yeah, like I go to wherever all these different like tropical destinations all the time and my company runs itself and like I'm not there. But at the same time, I still enjoy my life, and have hobbies. And sometimes I think that it's important too for people to recognize the value of living within your means and enjoying your life, because life is really short. And if you spend your entire life pushing for the next thing, I'm going to start my business and I'm going to reach $1 million gross and then I'm going to reach $2 million gross, or, oh, I'm going to become an instructor and then I'm going to become a dean and then I'm going to be vice president and then I'm going to be like, you sometimes forget that, I was talking to my dean one time about, whether or not I wanted to be anything other than an instructor. And I was like, yeah, I love teaching. I love interacting with the students and seeing them. Like there's nothing I love more actually than seeing students come in who really struggle with landscape design and then having them hand in that package at the end of the program and seeing them like pull everything that they've learned together and like develop this really impressive thing, and I'm like, look at you, like look at what you've achieved. Like I love that. And I don't actually want a different role. I like this role. Sometimes
just
I think there's
love-
value.
You love when students know how to roll their plans. No joke, Alec. This was day one of landscape design. She takes the piece of paper, she rolls it. And I was like, okay, well, if this is what this course is going to be, like, I think I can cruise because we're learning how to roll paper. And she's like, do you want your plan to roll and be a pain in the butt? Or do you want it to roll so it lays flat on your desk? And I was like, all right, actually, I need to pay attention to this class because I didn't ever think about how to roll and unroll a set of plans. So
I know you were making fun of me on how I trifold my 11 by 17 so they fit in files and everything.
I know. So I really underestimated some of those things. But Elizabeth, literally, that was like day one. And we still had one student who, everyone else rolled it because we were like, as if we're losing marks on not being able to roll a piece of paper. Especially that would be embarrassing. And she's like, there's always one. And you're like, how is there's always one? We're having this whole conversation. We're practicing. There's hands-on practical application. There was one person. And it was not me. I would like to put that on the record. That was one thing that I did get. But I think about Elizabeth every time I roll my plan. And I'm like, who thought that this was going to stick with me after old college?
I'm so glad that's the lasting thing that I've left with you.
Oh, there's a few. There's a few. The other one is because I'm a perfectionist, type A, control freak perfectionist, and I will own it probably till the day I die. But Elizabeth was like, is it worth it? Like, is because I would be the person that would undo a whole bunch of work, and she's like, take the hit. I was like, I have an instructor. I have a teacher standing in front of me right now telling me to yes, exactly, Alec. That was my response to the situation, being like, I'm not going to take the hit if I know what's wrong before it's due. And then there's things you're like, nope, I'm going to take the hit. Like, it is not worth this one mistake that's worth 1 point isn't worth the 7 hours I would need to undo it and redo it. So that also stuck with me, was take the hit. Elizabeth's like, huh, I was hoping for more still.
I was pretty sure that was going to be the other thing you said.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so
Or
I clearly
sitting
still...
there literally folding the paper, unfolding the paper, looking at her, and then looking back at the person that wasn't folding it and being like, oh.
It was funny because everybody like looked and was like, homeboy didn't do it. And we were like all mortified because we were like, Elizabeth said, like, that's the one thing you had to do. Like,
Teacher said, oh my God.
Yeah, I know. 30-something-year-old, and we still sound like a bunch of 12-year-olds in a classroom being like, didn't you listen? Yeah. So, Elizabeth, last question for you. If you're going to give advice to yourself starting out all those years ago, what is that advice that you would give? And it's probably not folding paper or it's worth the hit. Take the hit.
I don't know. My take-homes from this are folding paper and horseback archery is cool, so I don't know.
Good. I'm so glad I've left a lasting impression on you. You know, it's funny because I'm really not much for regrets or looking back. But at the same time, I do think one thing that I would say is don't be in such a hurry for the next thing. I don't even think it really occurred to me to look for the opportunity to work for someone else within the industry. And one of the things about entrepreneurship is that we take it for granted. You know, and it was funny, I was talking to my dean about this, and he pointed out, like, even doctors and you know, like, totally outside of trades, we're people who are really good at this thing that we do, and so we decide to do it for ourselves. And you don't realize how much is involved, and so you start to build skills in other ways, right? Like, I'm still building skills. I'm just not really building landscaping skills anymore. The skills that I build now are soft skills, management skills, contract writing, you know, that kind of stuff. I think it's of value to start young, first of all. Like, get into the trades before you're so old that you have to make a certain amount of money in order to have independence, you know? Like, so get in young, and then, like, think about the skills that you want, you know? Like, I never really learned how to cut down trees. I never really learned how to climb trees, and I think it would have been cool, but I didn't go work for an arborist. And it's really hard when you are a business owner to learn that new thing, because time is money when you own your own business. And if you try to learn how to do something and you're not very good at it, you lose time and therefore you lose money. And so it's easier to just subcontract someone who has those skills or hire someone who has those skills. So, like, I actually have employees that are better at doing things than I am because I never learned how. I just jumped into business ownership. And I don't know if I regret it. I don't know if it was good or bad. I don't know if I would change it if I could go back. But it is something that I would maybe have thought about a little bit more. Had I known then what I know now?
And that's always the classic, isn't it? Right? Like, you're so focused on what your goals are in that moment to evaluate, hey, fast forward 10 years, what should I know now? Or what do I wish that I know now? So
Yeah,
that's
or
great
what
advice.
do I want to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like on that on that kind of note, or kind of back to, like what the trades do. Like one of the things that I really wish people understood too is that, like again, like start trades young. Get a trade. You start when you're 16 or 17 years old. You can be a journey person by the time you're like 18 or 19 if you want to. And now suddenly you are literally worth 25 to $45 an hour instead of all your friends who are working entry level at minimum wage, which I think is 15 and change right now, right? Like you can't do it. A living wage in Red Deer is $21 an hour last I checked. Like, so imagine now you're 19 or 20 years old and you can be making a really comfortable living wage. And you can use that to project yourself into anything you want to be, environmental engineering, architecture, like there's all these other tracks that you can go down. But because you have a trade, you have the work skills, the soft skills, the industry experience, and you just you know how tools work and you know how things work. And so it informs the rest of your education in this like really practical and useful way. And again, I don't know that I would have told myself that when I was younger, but it's one of the things that I do wish that young people and parents and high school counselors or coordinators would consider when they're recommending things for young people.
Oh,
That's
but yeah,
awesome advice for sure.
even winter, it's awesome.
Uh, for our podcast, we are going to get our current guest to throw a question out to our next guest. Doesn't have to be industry related, can be goofy, can be fun. So what would you want to know about our next guest that you haven't even met yet?
All right, well, if Brianna can attest to this, I'm sure she heard at least one of my soapboxes. But I have a couple. And I throw down and get like super distracted on tangents, in class fairly often. And what I always say is, when I'm queen of the world, this will no longer be allowed. And so I want to know what, especially in our industry, makes your next guest crazy. And if they were ruler of the world and they could ban it forever, what would that thing be?
That
I
is a
like that.
fantastic question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining us today. It's been more than I hoped for, and I was hoping for a lot. Obviously, the Queen of the World, the future Queen of the World, joined us today. So, but yes, thank you so much for your time and for all your wonderful life experience and answers you've been able to share with us. It's been invaluable, I think, and even I've grown, I would say, during this. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, you
You're
had a lot
welcome.
of nuggets of wisdom in there. So more than just paper folding, but in all seriousness, I really do we appreciate your perspective on the industry and knowing that there's people in the industry that are shaping the next generation of professionals and journey folk that are going to come up. So thank you very much for that as well.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity, you guys. It's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed laughing with you.
Good. That's all we hope you get out of this.
Great.
She hit it out of the park, like on every level. Like just yeah, it was awesome.
The experience that she has in all different facets
Horseback,
and
horseback.
such an incredibly
I
horseback
can't
archery,
wait.
like how cool is
I
that?
can't wait to go
Like,
back and
did I
watch my
even
face when she first said it because I'm gonna be like, what?
honestly, okay, when I don't know if you do this or if you're a normal person, but I try and guess, like when
That's fair.
someone is leading up to revealing something about them. I'm like, oh, I was like, I feel like it's going to be something that I didn't expect. And I was like, I was in arts and crafts land. I was like, macrame was
Something
my
super
guess.
soft.
And then she pulls out, yeah, because I was like, I don't know, you go from like dirt on the hands and
Yeah,
moving
grit
big
and
boulders
determination
and trees. And
yeah,
I just,
something super
yeah.
soft. Yeah, like
And then, yeah, so that's in my brain. I was
Build-A-Bear
like, oh, it's
collection.
going to be like macrame or something. And then it was archery, horseback archery, not even normal archery. Like it's actually like, I thought it was hard
when
enough
you
to
were
hit
stationary.
the bullseye when I was stationary on even and level ground.
Yeah.
Throw me on absolutely not. That that is a trip to
No
the
kidding. I
ER
could just
for
picture her
sure,
have like all these
100%.
targets with students' faces and just complete emotional release of yes, right in the nose.
That's what happens when I had to listen to you all class every day for 2 months.
And if it's really bad, instead of using her bow, she just runs him over.
With the horn. But to be honest, serious, like we could not have asked for a better first guest, a better guest. Like I honestly just would like to have conversations with Elizabeth on a monthly basis.
Totally,
Hey,
yeah.
how are things going? What's your perspective on this hot button topic in our industry? So I'm a little bit speechless, which doesn't happen often. I'm so grateful and happy that we had the opportunity to chat with her, and what a fabulous moment. And there's so many nuggets of wisdom that I was like, man, this is better than any fortune cookie of just making you think. And that piece about the growth of like, yeah, you have entry level workers that kind of come all at the same level, but you continue to grow, and maybe that gap,
Yeah,
you don't appreciate that gap.
I really like that. And yeah, like you said, it was, yeah, very, I don't think intended by her, but very unintended, like not normal perspectives. And
Yeah.
it was just
Like just
yeah.
there was a couple for me like light bulb moments where I was
Totally.
like, holy smokes. So I'm excited to watch it back and get to listen to it all over again, because even experiencing once wasn't enough for
I
me.
know you almost forget that we're hosting this for, a lot of people, but it was like, oh, I would just be happy to do it again, like you said, and just have a meeting with her and be like, oh, cool, thanks, I appreciate the advice. So I'm really struggling about this week, or how would you approach this situation? But anyways, for everyone, yeah, we hope you really enjoyed Elizabeth and everything she had to bring and all of the questions. But please follow along, subscribe, like, and obviously give us 5 stars for our horseback archer. Follow CNLA so you can see us grow and stay connected on the national level. And thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.